Well, hello everybody. This
Hello.
is what episode are we on? This
It's
is
the third full episode.
yes, third full episode. This is gonna be fun. Where is everyone? Christine is
I'm at
back
home.
home. Christine is
Yep.
back home.
I flew back from Paris yesterday,
Ooh,
and now I'm back in Brooklyn.
awesome. And then Christina, it looks like you have a little love band-aid.
Oh, yeah. I just got my flu shot and my second COVID booster, which I think they just allowed adults, like all adults, to get starting today or something. So I just went to CVS and got it, and my arm is very sore.
So if you go like
Congratulations.
this during the middle of
Yeah.
the podcast,
If
you
I-
know.
Oh, my shoulders. Did you hear my shoulder crack?
Was that you?
That was really loud.
Oh,
What is that?
Oh my God.
years
It's
of swimming, I guess. I don't
It's
know.
called aging.
Yeah.
What's everyone eating and drinking today?
Well, because I got my booster shot, I'm not drinking a cocktail or beer this time. Sorry to disappoint, but I picked up
Good.
some kombucha. So I got Health-Ade kombucha. It's passion fruit and tangerine flavor.
Yum.
I actually haven't tried it before.
That sounds really good.
Tell us.
I love passion fruit, so I'm obsessed with it right now. And then I'm eating some Flamin' barbecue ruffles,
Yum.
Ooh,
which I
that
still need
sounds
to
bomb.
open. I'm gonna do it right now for ASMR.
Oh my God.
Hold
Take
on,
a
and then
bite.
I'm gonna pour it into my bowl.
So sad. My mouth is watering right now. Is it spicy?
But then
It's
a little
the
bit
flamin'
like
hot.
smoky and sweet because of the barbecue.
Mm,
That's
That
me.
sounds great.
delicious.
What about you, Christine?
I am drinking this Junmai Kimoto sake from the Kurosawa Brewery.
Yum.
And I picked this up at there's Rule of Thirds, the restaurant, and there's like Bin Bin Sake, and it's like a sake shop. So I picked it up there. It's been like hanging out in my fridge.
It looks ice
I'm also
cold.
eating Annie's organic Cheez-Its.
Cheese
I don't know if my AirPods, Cheez-Its, I don't know, cheese squares, cheddar squares. I don't know if you can hear it. It's not as satisfying as Christina's ASMR, but it's like a good balance between like the sweetness from the sake and like the saltiness from Cheez-Its, and that's what's going on in my world right now. What about you, Megan?
Wait, I'm still imagining all those Cheez-Its getting stuck in the braces. And talking about braces, listen to our last episode. No, it was 2 episodes ago. Sorry. Continue, Christine.
If you see me, like, if anyone's watching the video of the recording, you're gonna see me like moving my mouth around and like twirling things around. I am trying to get all of the cheese, well, these like cheese squares lodged in my brackets out so that I can talk. So that's what's going on.
Oh, God.
No.
I just exposed Christine. Okay, what am I doing? So I'm drinking this Field Recordings wine called Clouds. If you guys see
It's
this,
so
you should do
pretty.
it. I know. It's their like collab with Silver Lake Wines.
Oh my God, it looks like
Um,
wine that angels drink.
I
Like it's
right? It's
so
a
pretty.
co-ferment made from grapes and peaches. How fitting for
Ooh,
the
peaches.
summer. And then I'm doing dill flavored chips. What is this? Like the
Yum.
potato chips. The crunch.
Oh,
Mm,
that was a good one.
a big baritone crunch. It's like okay, so we have all of our snacks and drinks in hand, and I'm going to just kind of remind everyone of the structure of the podcast. Samcha again means third round. So while we're drinking and enjoying our snacks, we'll have these conversations over 3 rounds where we dive deep into a specific topic. We'll drink throughout each round as we go. So today's topic, Christina's going to introduce it.
It's called I Hate Myself. We're going to be talking about our insecurities. So let's dive into ilcha, which is round one. Cheers, everyone, with our drinks. By the way, the reason I didn't really explain the whole booster and no alcohol thing, but the last time I got my booster shot, I had a cocktail after and then I was super loopy. So I decided to play it safe and drink kombucha. So just wanted to add that explanation. But oh, that was a really nice. Was that Christine?
Yeah.
What was it? It was like a. I don't know.
Oh, with the pour. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. Okay, round one. Let's talk about just what are our biggest insecurities as 30-somethings. So we're all in our 30s. Yeah, what are your biggest insecurities? And then we'll get to like how is it different from our 20s. But maybe Christine, do you want to start?
Ooh, yeah, that's a big question. What is my biggest insecurity? I feel like I'm exposing myself and my inner psyche of like what is always running around in my head. But I thought about it and I think that like my job and my career has always been a source of insecurity. I've never felt secure in my job. And I think it's mainly because I want to do so much in my life. And I feel like I don't have enough time to do everything that I want to do. And also balancing that out with more of like the reality of life, of paying your bills and having like a steady paycheck. Balancing all of that out has become even more real in my 30s than it was in my 20s. I felt like in my 20s, there seemed to be a little bit more space to explore. But now in my 30s, I feel like there's less time because I want to have other priorities beyond my career, like building a family. And sooner or later in my 30s, hopefully, knock on wood, like I'll start a family and I won't be able to have as much dedication and resources and time and space to explore what I want to do with my career.
I'm honestly shocked that you say job and career is your insecurity because like out of all of my friends, you have always been like the most accomplished one in terms of career. Like you had your job secured like right after graduation and then you like moved to New York and got your dream job there and then even like worked in Paris like while you were at that job and then have just kind of like continued to like move up and like move from like whatever, I forget like the field you were in before and then into product management now. Like you've always like been moving and climbing. So that's like very shocking to me actually that you feel insecure about it. But it makes sense, especially given like it's like you have all these other things that you want to accomplish. So you're like, am I doing the right thing like with my time now? Like that's how I'm kind of reading into it.
I think that like is a really great call because like Christina has been there since the beginning of the time that I started to establish myself professionally. And I would say that in terms of all of these goals that I've set out for myself, that's just like I guess that just helps explain this insecurity of like why I keep going after these new goals and these new targets. But I still feel very like unfulfilled in my career. I am like, I have set out new goals and I think that that's just like the process of growing, but it just is like this like deep existential like calling where I'm like not meeting that. And I think that that's always been there since I started my career and I started to make these types of trade-offs for the sake of establishing like a reality where I can like sustain myself and I can be financially secure. But now it's like I feel like I have less time. I also feel like I'm wasting time and the answers are becoming clearer and clearer. It's just more like how can I have the courage to tend to this insecurity in like a very honest and truthful way.
And I think there's also like underlying themes or things that are kind of going in tandem from what you're saying because it could also be just like the insecurity of time in general, and like
Mm-hmm.
how time is kind of constrained, or like it's more um like women have to think about it more, of course, with
Yeah.
like building family and jobs and glass ceilings and things like that. And so, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I feel like a deeper exploration into that is needed.
We should count like
Yeah.
how many times we say we need to go deeper into that in another episode.
We need to come like coin a term of like let's go deeper in that, like you
Hmm.
know, like Alloway
Yeah.
Hask or something, like a word for to like signal to do that.
Wait, can you please explain Alloway Hask for our
Oh my
listeners?
gosh.
Oh, what?
When
Because
we were in
you just threw that
college,
out there.
so this is just like a really random thing that I threw out. But Alloway Hask, we Christina and I were walking around in college, and like in the dorms there's a graffiti on the stairs and it said Alloway Hask, and we're like, oh, we need like a term to signal to each other that we need to use a bathroom. So Alloway Hask is like pee and poo, and so we would say, do you need Alloway Hask, or like so that we wouldn't have to be so blunt about like having to use the bathroom. So that's Alloway Hask, and I think we should come up with another Alloway Hask for. Let's dissect that. Let's go deeper.
Yeah. And bus was sparked.
Because it was in front of a bus stop. So they're like, "What's the next word? How do we say fart?" And we're like, "Oh,
Oh
And then
bus."
a bus
my
went by.
God.
Yeah.
Oh
So
God.
stupid.
Anyways, we'll come. Well, it'll have to like flow naturally in terms of what we
Yeah.
use to.
We'll find something.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Megan? What do you think that your biggest insecurity is?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, right? Like I definitely have more than one, but if I was gonna bring something up, and I definitely mentioned this in that original video that we did for Christina, like on Christina's channel. If you guys haven't seen it, go find Christina's channel on YouTube. Um, so on there, I think I talk a little bit about like weight and like vanity as we're aging. Something that's like very clear to me at this point is that like the way that I view my body is very different. And it's definitely become healthier, but also at the same time, like because I feel like I still feel relatively young, but my body looks or reacts differently than it used to, like in my 20s. It's kind of like it could feel jarring. So like a really good example is like, I used to just like if I felt like I wanted to eat anything I wanted and drink whatever I wanted, as I'm sitting here eating chips and drinking wine. But if I did that and then I felt like, I gained a few pounds when I was, a little bit younger, I'd be like, okay, like I'm gonna try and eat better. And then in like a few days or in like a week, I would like bounce right back. But now that bounce back takes so much longer. And even when we like go out, right, and we have like a rough night and we like had a little too much to drink, too much tequila, and like the next day you want to die. I feel like it's kind of in that same vein.
Is it, did it happen like overnight, or do you think that it's like one by one, it just kind of like fell like dominoes for you?
I feel like it must have been gradual, right? But like in
Hmm.
hindsight, you're like, oh my God, all of a sudden I need three liquid IVs, the next day.
Three?
Yeah, or like even with weight or like vanity, you're like looking in the mirror and like seeing the wrinkle. Like in one way, I'm like, oh my God, that's cool. Like I have a wrinkle. And then in the other,
Said
you're
no
like,
one
oh,
ever. I'm just kidding.
cute little
And then,
wrinkle.
yeah, cute little wrinkle. And then like the next day you're like, oh shit, I have a wrinkle. Like,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? Um, so yeah, it must have been gradual, but I think like all of sort of these things kind of stack up. And as
Mhm.
we you know gain a year, every year, I feel like sometimes those things kind of add up.
Yeah. Um, I feel like a lot of times we're insecure about things because we're comparing to something, whether
Hmm.
it's ourself or someone else. So, do you feel like with weight or like physical changes, do you think you're comparing yourself more to yourself as a 20 something year old, other 20 something year olds, other 30 somethings, other people who are older that are like looking real good? Like, who do you think you're comparing yourself to the most?
That's a really good question. It probably has to do, it's probably a combination. So, like, obviously, when I look at myself, I'm like, ooh, 10 years ago, like, I looked this way, or like I was this weight or whatever. But of course, like, I'm human, I'm on social media, like, I see all this stuff about these women who I think are like my age or even like a little bit younger or a little bit older or whatever, and they look amazing. And I like we can talk about this in the later chaz, but um, but yeah, I mean, like, obviously, we know that like social media is a highlight reel, and like everything, is curated and is perfect. And a lot of people who post those things also like Photoshop here and there, and like that they feel like they need to. But yeah, so I guess it's like a combination kind of all of it. Like, you see
Mm.
yourself, and then you can appreciate, but then I think also at the same time, like, you can notice the differences. And I would say I would share that as an insecurity for sure.
I think for me, you were talking about social media as a highlight reel. That's kind of connected. Like, I have this insecurity about like the way I come off on my YouTube channel and social media in general. I think I'm pretty private, and so I don't share a lot of things like on Instagram and even on YouTube. And also, my content is like very professional in the sense that I do a lot of videos about consulting and career related content, but I still throw in like some lifestyle here and there. But yeah, I'm just insecure that people think I'm boring, like from my YouTube channel. I have a story actually. I mean, it's not really a story, just this moment that happened. But I was getting dinner with our friend Rebecca and a few other people, and then her cousin as well, who was visiting from like out of town. And I guess she watches my YouTube videos. And so we were like talking about that. And I was like, oh my God, thank you, like blah, blah. And then I think after that night, like we had gone to dinner and dessert or whatever. And I think she like told Rebecca after, like, oh, like Christina's like so different than her YouTube channel. Like she was so like, just more like outgoing or like fun, like that type of thing. Because, I like joke around a lot, but I don't show that on my YouTube channel. So yeah, it's like weird. It's a weird insecurity because it's like it's people who do matter in my life, but then they're not like in my direct circle. Um, you know?
Yeah.
But because I just have this like obsession, not obsession, I can get obsessive about like how people perceive me, even if I don't know them. So that's where the insecurity comes in. And it's something that's like I can sort of control in terms of I can control what I'm putting out there, but I also can't control how people take it.
Right, right. Well, I feel like this is a pretty good platform to just be like, ah, and like do
Yeah.
whatever, and make the
That's why I was excited
jokes
to do
or,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's so funny. Like I can totally relate in that like in with Dear Saturdays,
Mm.
I'm like most of it is like very Martha Stewarty content, like home making
Korean
and
Martha Stewart.
DIY, but then it's also like sometimes I'll post stories when I'm drunk or tipsy and I'm like, why did I do that? Or like when I'm falling asleep. So I am very chaotic in the sense where like when I post things, like my platform is mostly Instagram and my blog, but I think like with YouTube you have more time to be deliberate. Like you can't edit and publish drunk. Like the time that it takes you have the time to like think through like how to articulate what you want to put out into the world. But I get that sense of like when I do have the time, I want to be more polished. And that's like one part of it, but it's also like it is really frustrating because like I just want to like say the F word like in my cooking videos,
Do
but I
it.
can't.
Do
So
it.
That's true. Yeah, you're always thinking of like
yeah.
how are people gonna take this little thing? And it's like, but you can't please everybody.
Yeah, it's like when I
Yeah.
cut this vegetable, is it going to be criticized by anyone? Like, oh, she doesn't
Oh,
know how to
you
cut
know
a
it
vegetable
will.
properly. You can't please everyone, so at
Kendall and
least,
her cucumber.
Oh my gosh.
oh yeah, you can't.
All right. Well, let's head into Icha then. Cheers,
Ching ching.
Cheers.
everybody. And for our question for round two, I'm a big Tinks fan. I don't
Yes, we
know who
are.
else. Yes, who else is a Tinks fan? But she has a theory called fatal flaw theory, and it's basically that each of your friends has a fatal flaw, and it's just something that you, as a friend, either need to get over and accept about them and love them despite that fatal flaw, or if you can't, then you need to rethink the friendship because if you can't get over that, then it's just going to be an uphill battle to have a happy relationship with that friend. So I thought we could kind of be introspective about this and think about what is your own fatal flaw. So, for example, I've actually been thinking about this over the past couple of weeks because I was talking about it with some other friends. So it's just top of mind for me. But I think my fatal flaw is that I have this like incessant need to be right and also for like things to be fair, like especially to me, but like to others too, but especially to me. And it's just like if I know that I'm correct about something, but somebody like argued against me or whatever, or I feel that they did something wrong to me, like I have to like set the record straight. And the reason I think and feel that this is a flaw is that it means that I have a lot of trouble letting go of things and I tend to dwell. And, you know, sometimes it's good to like hash things out and have closure to make sure there's no misunderstanding. But a lot of the time, like, it's more like I'm making a bigger deal out of something than it is. And it's much healthier and better and easier just to move on. But I have this tendency to like hold on and like need to prove that I was right just to be right.
If you can recall, like the most recent example where like that
Yeah.
I'm actually like curious. Like, can you recall a time when that happened and you like reflected and you were like, maybe I could have like approached it differently, or maybe I this is the way that I am, and it actually helped me find more resolution by
Mm-hmm.
addressing it the way that you did.
There's probably better examples than this, but this just popped into my mind. And this may also just speak to, again, my insecurity of how people perceive me. So, for example, I was in Glendale. It was after your birthday party, Megan, when we
Mm-hmm.
went to, did we go to Rafi's
Oh,
place?
yeah.
So like Middle Eastern,
Yeah.
maybe like type of
Yes,
restaurant.
yes,
So we
yes,
went to this,
yes.
yeah, so we went to this restaurant for Megan's birthday, and then we were gonna go somewhere else like afterwards. We're going to like hookah lounge or something after dinner. And then I was talking about like I was talking about Sherman Oaks and how Sherman Oaks is like
I remember this.
closer to Glendale than Torrance is to Glendale. This is so LA specific also. I'm sorry if you need to pull out a map or something just to
Take the
like
405 down to
yeah,
Mulholland.
the Californians. But basically, I don't remember how this came up, but that was the premise. And three people were like in my mind ganging up on me. See how like it's like so small, but in my head I was like, wow. Like, they
And
were
like
telling me how
they weren't ganging up, right? It was just like, no, like I think I think Sherman Oaks is, or I think Glendale is closer. Or like I think
Yeah,
Sherman Oaks is
well,
closer, right? Or were they?
they were saying like, why would anyone live in Sherman Oaks? Like Sherman Oaks is so far. And I was like, no, Sherman Oaks is closer to Glendale than Torrance is to Glendale. And then they were like, no, 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 like Torrance is closer, like it only takes me blah blah blah, right? And then I was just like, I knew in my head, I was like certain that that
Hmm.
Sherman Oaks was closer. So then we like whatever we like part ways because we were in the parking lot talking about this, and then we like went off into our cars to meet at Hookah Lounge. And then in the car, I was like Googling the exact
Yeah.
mileage like of the 3 points, and Sherman Oaks is like a mile and a half closer. And I was like, I knew it. Like I could see the map in my head, right? And I was like, I was just so frustrated because everyone was like saying that I was wrong, and I was like, I know I'm correct.
I still remember the I still remember the screenshots. Like I'm pretty sure I got a screenshot or two. It was like and like there was like a draw, there was like a, a line of like
Yeah,
here it is.
it's the hypotenuse from Sherman
Yeah.
Oaks to Glendale. I'm so
I
sorry.
don't
This
know why that's an insecurity though. It's like
Wait, hold on. Well,
you're
so I have to
informing. Uh-huh.
finish. I have to
Uh-huh.
finish. So, I mean, this. I'm so sorry. The story's so long. But a normal person would just like look at like let that go, or like just be like whatever. Like it's like almost the same, and whatever. We're both correct. But then we got there, and I like sat down, and I was like, "You guys, I looked it up, and I'm telling you, Sherman Oaks is closer. It's like blah 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 miles." Like, and I was just like so worked up. And then the person was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry." But yeah, but again, this also probably speaks to like my insecurity of like, ugh, like that was such a stupid thing to like bring up.
Mm.
But then I also just felt the need to be like, no, I'm not dumb. I was correct. So that's part of what goes into it is this insecurity of like coming off like I don't know what I'm talking about or I'm not smart or that kind of thing.
Where does that
Can I
come
ask?
from? Oh,
Yeah, I
sorry.
was just gonna ask that. That is
Yeah, like where
exactly what
does
I was
that
gonna
come
ask. Like,
from?
Okay, well, this is now therapy. No, I mean, it's probably just like because being a like academically and like
Mm.
extracurricularly like high performer growing up is probably like part of where it comes from. And like I most likely place a lot of my value in like being good at things, being right about things, or knowing things. So I think if something is threatening that, it probably triggers that kind of reaction.
Yeah. And what's interesting is it also aligns with actually how you are. Now I'm not feeding into this correctly. Like I'm feeding into the, I'm leaning into it, but like you you obviously you're human, but like you are kind of the historian, right, of the group. And like you do really remember a lot of things that like we all forget, or like you will recall a lot of things. And so I think sometimes it could kind of feed maybe negatively into that insecurity that you have.
well, I just want to reinforce that that is not like a fatal flaw. I think it's like a fatal flaw in the way that you perceive yourself. But for like people like me, I need people like you, and it's not like a fatal flaw. It's like I need someone to be factually correct. Otherwise, I'll get it wrong. So
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
not,
think like
yeah. It's
it's
not
like
like, oh,
it's
sorry.
it's good. Uh-huh.
Well, I
I
was
think
gonna
it's
say,
like yeah.
We
I'll
gotta
shut
keep
up.
that in. We gotta keep
I have to
that
keep
in.
that in. Oh my God. No, I appreciate that. I think the flaw is in like how I respond to things. And
Mhm.
Hmm.
that's obviously like a very silly example that I could just like very clearly see the like, I was right about this thing. But I think where it becomes a flaw is like if I'm having a conversation with someone and they said something, I like hold on to the way that they said it. And
Mm,
like prove that I was correct because they had said like XYZ. So I think
Mm.
that's where it can like bring out more of that negativity in a relationship.
I haven't experienced that
Ooh.
yet, but that is that is very self-aware of you to like catch on to that.
I feel like that's most of the work, to be honest. Like when you can notice those things, obviously, like then the work is like to like maybe fix it or address it or whatever. But I think, yeah, the hard part is knowing that that exists in you and like addressing it basically, or
Mm-hmm.
naming it is what I mean.
Wow, this is heavy. This is a heavy episode. Deep breaths. I think I need to take a little bit more of this.
A little more of your sake. I'm enjoying my
Cheers.
kombucha.
Fatal flaw. Um, I think mine is that this is the first time that someone has labeled, like, to what you were saying, Megan, like what is going on within me. One time I took a Pilates class with Christina. I was like carrying all this stuff. We were on our way to eat breakfast with a friend, and I had like my phone in one hand, like I had coffee in the other hand, and I ended up spilling coffee all over myself. And then Christina's like, "Here's some napkins, like wipe yourself off," and explained what happened to our friend Ryan. He's like, "Christine, you have so much chaotic energy." And that was the first time someone has ever said that, but it's like every time that something like that happens, I'm like, I do have chaotic energy, and it helps explain um, what is going on, like to label what is going on. So I think like my fatal flaw is that I have a lot of chaotic energy, not a lot of chaotic energy, but I do have that. And the reason why I have this is going back to my insecurity. It's like I overcommit to things. I overcommit to holding things in my hand. I overcommit to like checking something while I'm doing something else. And I'm like trying to multitask. And that results in like, I'll be late to things because I committed not enough time to meet someone and get everything that I needed to get done before I meet someone or go on to the next thing. Probably because I want to do more in my life and I want to take advantage of all the time that I have and fit things in, and sometimes it works out and the like progression of events happens very fluidly, but other times I'm met with like these roadblocks or like resistance to whatever I need to do next. And I think that explains why I have chaotic energy.
Mm. Well, I feel like you kind of answered this, but do you feel like why really do you think, like, do you feel like you are compensating for something?
Like by overcommitting?
Yeah, by overcommitting
um,
or taking on too much, basically.
I think there's like, I've seen times that like days where I do stack it and everything like flows very well. And I try to shoot for that to like stack everything in a day, but it's not realistic. Like I'm not giving myself breaks in between. And so in my like work life, I will um, not give myself like buffers. I'll just do back to back meetings, and then I'd like realize that I'm like burnt out and I'm like slurring my words in other meetings. And I think I just like, as I'm going into my 30s, like I'm recognizing some of my limitations and being able to also like be present in the moment versus like my mind rushing to the next thing. And also like in being present, like I also want to enjoy the task at hand, which is something that I've never like. I'm always oriented towards the future, but in my 30s I'm like I need to enjoy this task more. I need to enjoy being in the present and experiencing this specific task. But I think the reason why I do this is again like I want to do everything, but also like I don't give myself enough time to do everything that I want, and then that's when like the slip ups happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you think that your chaotic energy like affects your relationships with other people? Because this is like fatal flaw, which is like, it's
Yeah.
in relation to your friends and stuff. So,
Yeah. I think Christina, Megan, you guys have experienced this where I will show up like in my 20s, I would show up like 45 minutes late to like an hour and a half dinner because I was like, I needed like return something on the other side of the city. and also like get ready for dinner and like not look like a sloppy mess. So I'd be like doing my makeup in the car while I'm driving, and then I get stuck in traffic, and then I like arrive to dinner very, very, very late. I don't do this as much anymore, but I remember this one time where it was like really bad, and like I could see that it affected Christina and it affected the folks that I was having dinner with, and I was like, shit, I mean, oops. I was like, I feel so bad. And I think that like to have people wait on me is like an unfair thing to do, and that's like something that like I have been trying to address and overcome. I think that like I saw the same thing in like just referencing like our previous episode about our moms. Like my mom had 4 kids, so she was always overcompensating for the time that she had, and overcommitting too. And I think that people gave her like a little wiggle room. She's like, oh, she's a mom of 4, we'll let it slide. But like for me, I don't have that excuse. So, so anyways, I think that I do see it affect like my friends and in the way that I show up, and I'm always thinking about something else, or I'm like late. And then I think like in like personal like relationships, it's like, oh, we commit to dinner at this time, but I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about something else and I need to get this done. And in my mind, I'm always like thinking about something else, and I catch myself doing that. And I think that that's also like an unfair thing to do, to not be like fully present in the moment, thinking about what I did before and like what I need to do next. I'm trying to be better at that. And this is something that I've learned about myself in my 30s. Yeah.
You really have gotten better about that, though. Like truly.
I like show up at most like 10 minutes late, and I think that that's like acceptable
normal
now.
Yeah.
I know some people who show up like 10 minutes before. I would never do that.
I was actually gonna say, like, to paint a picture though, like I think Christina and I are probably the 10-minute early types, which I think that's also why it made it seem like Christine was that much more later. But I mean, yeah, I just wanted to paint that picture.
Yeah, I just really appreciate like the patience that my friends have had with me, like the patience that my family has had with me in me trying to like find the right balance to like address this like aspect of myself. Yeah.
Very nice.
What about you, Megan?
Oh, do we have an extra 5 hours to talk about this? I feel like sometimes I can definitely be like too sort of like stern with like people, with things, and usually it becomes like, it's usually like in relationships. So like a lot of my friends, or like my partners, right? Like I kind of have this like standard for myself, and so then it obviously gets passed on to like my immediate circle. And like sometimes I kind of put it on the people around me to like kind of meet that standard. And when that standard is broken, and we can use the word trust too instead of standards, but like if that trust is broken, I feel like I have a really hard time kind of getting it back or like rebuilding it. And I think that's kind of where that sternness comes in. Like, I think I could definitely be a little bit more like flexible or a little bit more open, or those like standards can be a little bit more like gray, because like life is not black and white. But yeah, I tend to like, it tends to kind of come off in that way for sure.
Why do you think that is?
It probably has a lot to do with control, and I think we kind of talked a little bit about that with you, Christina, earlier. But yeah, like I think it's hard for me to like let go sometimes of like certain things. I mean, I think a lot of people can kind of relate to that. But yeah, it's hard to like let someone else take the wheel sometimes. That's definitely something that I'm working on.
All right, let's go to samcha. Round 3.
Samcha.
Cheers. Okay, we're gonna bring
Cheers.
up the mood a little bit in samcha.
It's getting heavy and dark. Yeah,
Woo!
let's.
So yeah, let's talk about how we're working to better love ourselves through these insecurities. What are
Mm.
we doing to resolve these insecurities we have, or deal with them, manage through them, be better, all of that.
The really like obvious thing that I'm doing is therapy. Um, and like that it's like people talk about like everyone needs therapy. That's absolutely true, but also like everyone can't afford therapy. So like I'm definitely coming from a place of like privilege. Like I know it's definitely a privilege to be able to do it. But yeah, like I started like real therapy, like really digging in maybe like 6 months ago, 7 months ago at this point. And I have been kind of learning a lot, obviously, about myself, and like working through some of these insecurities that we've brought up. And that's why it's been amazing because, like, obviously, everyone has these insecurities, or like everyone has insecurities in general. And I still have these no matter, how much time or money or resources I put into therapy. Um, but like you kind of learn to deal with them, or like you learn yeah, how to like work through living with this stuff. So yeah, that's kind of an easy one. Like I do therapy, so like I think
Yeah.
I work with a
Mm.
professional to like talk shit through.
A professional helps me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been doing some therapy too, but not quite as consistently as I think you've been
Mm.
doing for the past 6 months or so. But yeah, I get some therapy sessions through work, through Talkspace, not sponsored, but Talkspace is really
But
nice.
please, but please sponsor.
Yes, but if you're listening, I love Talkspace. So
Are
I
you
get
out there
yeah,
listening? Yeah.
yeah, so I get some sessions through work like every month. So I've been trying to get better about doing those more regularly. And then also, I designated like a separate notebook for my therapy sessions and things like that. And I need to take advantage of like chatting with my therapist, like outside of our scheduled like meetings, because there's like a
Hmm.
chat function. Um, so I'm trying to get better about that as well. Christine, do you do therapy?
Yeah, I do. And it has definitely like tremendously helped with um, just bringing up my frustrations with the insecurities that I mentioned earlier and exploring like resolutions around them and like testing things and being held accountable to those ideas that I have. So I think like through like one prime example of that is um, I was thinking about how I have these ideas for what I want to do with my career and just like being able to vocalize what those like tangible next steps look like in carving out space for myself and um, setting like a schedule and being better with time management and being realistic with myself and being kind to myself in that has definitely helped a lot. I also think like being able to like plan more aggressively. I think like I over plan now and I give myself buffer time, just like learning what works and what doesn't, and just like testing um, like different tools for time management has definitely helped. So therapy is wonderful. It's expensive. I don't have it through work. Well, it's like it's I have it through insurance, but it is like a bitch to pay for.
Yeah,
But it's so
seriously.
worth it because like mental health is also very,
Mhm.
very important. And
Yeah.
I think having someone like giving your yeah, giving your I don't know how else to say it, but giving your shit to like a professional to like like work through versus like a friend or a family member um is well worth it. So
Yeah. I mean, I would also say that like this is like a form of therapy. I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's awesome to like have a therapist like really comb through your crap, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, Christine. But like this is also so nice because the one word that kind of comes up for me is like vulnerable or like being vulnerable. I think like to
Hmm.
answer Christine, to answer the original question, which was like how are we working to like better ourselves like through these insecurities and things like that. I think it's like being vulnerable and like truthful about the things that you're going through and like sharing them with like your closest friends or like your family or people that you really trust. Like, I think that in itself kind of helps to nick away at some of the things, like some of the negative things that come with having some of these insecurities.
Hmm.
So, like, obviously, this has been really amazing. Sorry to
Yeah.
everyone that doesn't have a podcast, but
Not very sustainable of a recommendation. You know what's interesting? I 100% agree. I was gonna say like something similar of just like having those people that you can trust and be vulnerable
Hmm.
around and like who will accept you despite your fatal flaw and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, that's so key. Something that another kind of, I don't know if it's insecurity, but like something I think about a lot is like I worry that I'm not being vulnerable enough with my friends in very
mm,
like specific moments, um, especially if it's like they're maybe sharing something with me, right? And then I wonder like, oh, am I like sharing enough about myself as well to like so they continue to
Hmm.
feel comfortable, or if I like just have a sense that someone is like not being fully open or vulnerable, I'm like, oh, like, do I need to like set the tone for that
Hmm.
more?
mm.
So that's like another kind of insecurity slash just like thing that is on my mind sometimes.
Aw, no. You know what I love about Christina is like when I you have this signature move where like if you I think this is when you like I think I don't know I'm just thinking, but I think it's like when you're like connect like when you feel like really connected to the other person that's like that you're sitting in front of, you like reach out like we I think Olivia and I talked about this one time because you'll like reach out and you go like yeah you'll go and like you'll like deep breath
I
and like your
do.
eyes just go like this. Yeah, you like if we tell you something and like it's like really serious or like something you go
You can,
like you go like
it's
this.
like physically affecting Christina. Like you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
tell that it
yeah,
like hit her in her heart
yeah.
and she like
And like that's
literally
all you
melts
need.
into the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you like that to me that's all I need to be like, okay, she got it. She got what I
She
was
gets
trying to
it.
say. And
Yeah.
she's like doing this. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. So
Yeah.
continue with that move.
Okay, I will.
She does that when she sees a cute dog
Oh
too.
yeah, that's true. That's
Mhm.
true. Oh my goodness. Well, guys,
Yeah.
this was amazing, per usual.
This has felt very this has also felt like therapy too.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
in that like Christina and Megan and I like we set up a structure for this podcast, but we go through like the details live. So a lot of this was like Christina also opening up, like myself opening up and Megan opening up as well about things that like we never knew about each other. So I think that that's also like a way that we've like connected as friends and like if you're listening and you have friends that you think that you can have these types of conversations with to like learn about yourself and the way that your friends perceive you. I think that's like such a special way to deal with your insecurities and feel more secure in yourself and your friendships and the people that love you. So, yeah.
Mm. Oh,
Wow.
and if you don't, or if you feel like you need a little bit more like anonymity, please like DM us, like email us,
Plugging
like
that
yeah,
social. Yeah.
like
Yes.
send us a message, like Tell us what
Yeah,
your
we could be your
insecurities are.
friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell us what your insecurities are, what you're working through. I mean, I have 50 more that I can probably sit here and talk
Yeah.
about, but like we obviously don't have the time. But we'd love
Episode
to,
40.
yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So email us at samchapodcast@gmail.com. Find us on all our socials. Are we on TikTok?
TikTok,
We may or
Instagram,
may not be on
Twitter.
TikTok. Yeah.
Yep.
Instagram, Twitter
Everywhere.
at Samcha Podcast. Come find us, come chat with us, come hang out with us.
And come listen to us in our next episode.
Yeah. Next Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, is when it'll go live. So come hang out with us.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
That
Bye.
was kind of an awkward goodbye, but bye.
Bye.